All right, so this week we're going to talk about adding shading to our pencil faces. So last week we drew our faces in pencil and we did a bunch of erasing to get rid of all those underlying shapes. And this week we're going to take a look at our faces in the mirror and we're going to look for the places where there are values. Now, when I say values, I mean the dark spots on your face, and I'm not just talking about freckles. I mean, is there a shadow because of how your face is shaped? So, when you look in the mirror, more than likely you will notice that under your chin, there are shadows on your neck because of where the lighting is coming from. Usually, it's coming from up above you, and so, more than likely, your chin is lighter colored than your neck is. And so, you want to make sure that you're showing that value difference. Remember, in values in art has nothing to do with how much something is worth. It has to do with the lightness or darkness. So, we're talking about how there are darker values. It's darker under your chin. And so if you see what I'm doing here, I'm sort of using the side of my pencil and I'm lightly coloring a little bit with the side of my pencil to create darker values. And already my neck is starting to look much more 3D, and that's the goal of values, is making things look three-dimensional. So I am going to keep going here a little bit. I am going to add values wherever I see them on my face. So if I'm looking in the mirror and I go, oh my gosh, I have some darker spaces under my eyes. I don't want to go super heavy on any of these. I don't need to like jam my pencil into the paper at all, but just going and drawing a little bit with my pencil and adding a little bit of shadow in the places where I'm seeing it's a little darker will help my face look 3D. So I'm going to look around my nose and say, oh my gosh, the light is coming from this side in my mirror. So I'm noticed that this half of my face is a little bit darker. So I'm going to add a little shadow around my nose. And like this half of my nose is kind of much darker than the other half. In some places I might press a little harder or I might draw over a couple of times. In some places I'm going to let it be much lighter. And I'm just going to make sure those nostrils are looking pretty good there. And even though this side of my face is lighter than this side of my face, which is much darker, there are still some values here. And look, there's a little like shadow there. There's a shadow kind of around where my chin is. So you need to kind of look at your face and say, where are my shadows? And with your pencil, you're going to draw those shadows in first. Look and see, where does it get darker on your face? And I'm not just talking like this whole half of your picture is very dark and then this whole half is bright white. There's probably a little shadow on both sides, just depending on where it's hitting. But this side is going to be darker, probably, whichever side is yours on your paper. I've got some shadows kind of up here by my eyebrows, that whole thing. The main idea with adding your shadows, though, is you want to just be gentle and smooth with them as much as possible. You don't want to start drawing lines. You want to create shadow shapes instead of drawing lines. So the best way of doing that is holding your pencil not way up near the tip like you would for writing, but kind of backing your hand up and then using it in that weird pencil grip that seems kind of odd. So it's kind of, you're holding your hand on top of the pencil instead of like in your normal drawing grip or writing grip. So you're changing up your grip a little bit. So you're using more like the side of the pencil as you're going and adding that little bit of value across your face. It's better to go lighter and then add on a little bit more and a little bit more than go really dark really fast. It's much easier to add than it is to get rid of. So as you're looking at yourself in the mirror, maybe you've got some shadows up by your hair. Um, Maybe your hair is darker, than your skin. You can always add on to that by adding values. Now I have blonde hair, so I'm going to leave it, but you can add values in there. The last step for doing values, and I can't emphasize this enough, that this needs to wait until you're done adding all of this pencil information, is to take your finger or like a tissue. So you can use a Kleenex if you want, or you can use your finger just by itself, and you can blend all of these values that you've added. And blending just means smear. So I'm going to take a Kleenex and I'm going to wrap it around my finger so that I'm not going to get my hand too dirty. And I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to rub over all of these shadows that I've created. And I'm going to still pay attention to the shapes that I've made. So I don't just want to rub across my entire face like this, because that's just going to throw them everywhere and it isn't going to make a lot of sense. So I'm going to kind of stay inside the nose as I'm rubbing, stay inside the lips, stay kind of inside. I'm going to use sort of the same shapes that I saw. Rub on the cheek, rub near the eye. Okay, and you don't have to rub and rub and rub and rub. Just want to rub a little bit just to help it kind of set back into your paper a little bit, to help blend or bring together those shapes. Okay, so I'm going to do this just a little bit in the hair, because remember, I don't want to get it too dark. If you rub too much, you might lose some of your darker areas, and so if that happens, you can take your eraser. Like right now, my nose has kind of lost a lot of its definition because I don't have any bright spaces anymore. I'm going to take my eraser, I'm going to go back and I'm going to erase back in. And these are called highlights. These are the places where I'm really seeing that, hey, there's some brighter spaces in there. And I really want to make sure that those are staying bright on my paper. So you can do that yourself. Look and see, where is it light on your face, and then if you need to rub and smooth it kind of back on the edges, you can do that, or if you want to leave it more like lines, you can. It's really, what are you seeing on your face, and what's making sense to your drawing. And if you're noticing that, like, there's, maybe you kind of lose this chin definition, it got too blended and you need to make some spots darker again, you can always go in and add more if you need to. That is not a big deal. So that's kind of the main idea with this. So go ahead and blend your portrait, give your skin some definition, and make your face look nice and round with blended pencil. And then if you would like to do your clothing too, you're more than welcome, or you can leave those as pencil drawings. That's your choice. The background is what we'll work on next week.